I'm Ron Carricker. My company, 7 Media Group. I represent and work with a number of different brands and businesses, but primarily in the power sports industry, in the United States and Canada. And I work with about 100 Harley dealerships. So they're all independently franchise owned. Nick happens to be one of my standout clients that really has implemented a mobile strategy and has done a lot of different things. When I come up with new things, new ideas, he's the one I go to first. So hopefully today we'll share with you a little bit of some of the things that he's done at his dealership, some of the things that he's helped me with to work with other dealers. So we really we hope you enjoy it. We're happy to be here since we just flew in this morning.
Yeah, so if we doze off, don't be angry. Like you said, I'm Nick from Route 66 Harley Davidson. It's a dealership in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're actually been a top 10 dealership in the U.S. the last 2 years, top 20 the last 4, and we took over 5 years ago. And with that, we've actually acquired 2 new dealerships this year. So I'll be over 3 starting very soon.
Yeah, so when Nick got his position at Route 66 was right about 5 years ago, and the first thing he did was contact me. He wanted to do mobile. So he immediately, his ideas and thoughts were, that's something that I want to do that not a lot of dealers at that time were doing. I've been in business about 7 years and have worked with dealerships, and it's grown obviously now versus 7 years ago. It's much different. So Morris has talked a little bit about this already. Obviously, loyalty is a major factor in success for mobile in a lot of different aspects, whether it's an app or texting or a variety of things, social media on your mobile device. But loyalty is very important, and obviously it's very important to the Harley-Davidson industry as a whole. So the characteristics, these are some really basic things just that I like to look at, and it is indicative of the Harley brand and what you would expect. Innovation equals continued success. They innovate. You don't just have a chopper, an old bike. They really do a lot of new things, are progressive with what they design, their clothing, apparel, things like that. Customer service fosters brand loyalty. Again, the experience that they sell, it's not just a bike, it's not just a t-shirt, it's a lifestyle, it's something that people enjoy and want to be around on all aspects. Then happy employees. So that's one of the biggest things, and Nick knows this, that a lot of the guys that work for Harley are riders. They have a bike, they're a customer themselves, really. So that's a big aspect of where you really get a loyal customer through the employees, obviously. So brief little quote, fierce loyalty is the unshakable commitment we give to companies that we feel are an integral part of who we are. And again, that's Harley-Davidson, it's who I am, who we can't imagine life without, companies that become an essential part of how we define ourselves. Like Morris mentioned, person with a tattoo, I think he took a sneak peek at my presentation. But yeah, it's absolutely about how you define yourself. When you are so tied to a brand that you would put something on your body and not get paid for it, but that you would do that and adorn yourself with a company, a commercial brand, is pretty incredible. And it's pretty unique, really, in the industry, in the world, in terms of who's going to get a tattoo, because you're not probably going to get a lot of those. So Harley-Davidson really is again, a unique brand that the experience and the lifestyle and everything that goes along with it, I guess there's probably a lot of Apple people that might get an Apple tattoo, but anyway. So a little bit, mobile's the glue that unites traditional offline with new online programs in a way that is more meaningful and relevant to each consumer. And that's really where Nick comes in. Nick has done so much with going into a 110 plus year old brand that has this mindset. The demographic is a little older, or you think it is, or you don't think they're going to adopt new technologies and things. So the innovation part of it and adding online programs to go with the offline things that they've already experienced is a challenge. So I'm going to start out here. To understand the customer's journey, what's best for the customer? So as I mentioned, Nick, you were faced with a brand that you had to represent and work with, and one of your challenges obviously was to get customers, to get them to engage, and embrace the dealership through technology.
So that takes us back to the beginning, whenever I said we took over the dealership 5 years previous. Mike, huge challenge for me is how do I reach these customers that are loyal to the brand and invite them back in. And I thought mobile was perfect because you got to think about the demo that I'm trying to reach, and it's not me. I'm a younger guy at that point, and I'm tech savvy. I've been on Facebook, social media. I have my cell phone. What can I do to reach this older demo who may not be as tech savvy? And so that's why I went SMS. It's a simple message, and I can send them what we're doing every week. With that brand, that dealership in particular, we came in and started doing events, and we invited the customers back to the store to let them celebrate the culture. Not try to sell them necessarily on something right away, but hey, we're a new ownership group, we're here, we want you guys to come out, ride, have fun with us. Maybe it's live music, maybe we have chili cook-offs, whatever it is. I mean, there's all kinds of different events. I've thrown 50 plus over my last 5 years, and they love them all now. And
it's really interesting that 6-7 years ago when I started, I had dealerships tell me that their customers don't text, which was complete crap because we all know. I mean, they do. That's almost ubiquitous thing. Everybody, text messages in some form or fashion. At least that's what the numbers say. They said they didn't text. So when Nick implements this, 5 years ago, you're bringing something in that a lot of people think, well, this isn't going to work because these are all old guys. They're 50 years old. They don't have cell phones to text. They got flip phones or whatever it is. Did you see challenges when you first? How much success did you have right away? What was your intent, like with the customer journey itself, to get them engaged? How did you get them in your mobile club? How did you get them started?
Well, we had a huge customer database already, and so these people have given us permission to
market to them
and bring them in, whether it's for service or parts or clothing. And so why not reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to be a part of this customer loyalty club where you know what we have going on all the time, whether it could be a promotion for 20% off leather jackets, something as simple as that. And they had never even seen this before. Wow, straight to my phone, I get a simple message, an older guy, and I know that there's a St. Patty's Day party going on this weekend at Route 66, and I can go down there and have some beer, ride around with my friends, and have some food. And
let's give away beer and ride your motorcycle.
So that came out about that. So that came out. But obviously, we monitored that. But invite them back to come hang out with us, and they were blown away by it. We had some backlash from people who don't want to be messaged all the time, which is fine. I don't want you to be part of that club if you don't want messages coming in from us. So.
Talk a little bit about your channel. So a little bit in terms of like you have SMS now. You've done that for quite some time. You've moved into other areas. Your social media is really strong. How did you tie in some of these things to make it seamless? And the other things that the dealership was doing before you got there, your events and things like that. How did you tie it together, and how did mobile help you do that?
So growing our social media page was kind of hand in hand with growing the mobile side, because as I pointed out, somebody of my age had been on Facebook for 5 years before I even got to the dealership. But the biggest growth in Facebook 5 years ago was in the older demo, which is our key target of 35 to 54. And so tying that mobile in, a perfect example is saying, hey, text in a short keyword, whether it's long sleeve t-shirts, to 55678, which would be our short code or phone number. And you get a coupon bounce back to take that into the store. You got 20% off for the next 2 weeks.
So you do like your radio commercials?
Radio commercials, the same exact way. If we're going to, we have a big arena downtown in Tulsa, and so we partnered with them in a lot of concerts. Tickets all the time, we give them away, and people love free stuff, so text in to win. And I'm just getting all of these people to my mobile club, which hand in hand gets them where I want them as far as finding out about our promotions and events that we have going on.
So the purchasing journey, this is one thing that again is a little unique in terms of how the Harley brand represents itself. It's not selling stuff and driving it down your throat. You know, it's not always coupon driven. It's not a discounted product. You know, talk a little bit about getting those customers in the store. You mentioned, you know, texting a coupon back, but, you know, talk about your events a little bit. You know, that's something that the culture expects, but for you, for the dealership, you expect something in return, which would be, I assume, selling products, services, things like that.
Yeah, so not always placing that discount, like I said, having events at this store or bike nights around Tulsa at the time were really big because they like to celebrate the culture, but they weren't used to celebrating that. The dealership before that, it had become known as the old people place, where they would come for coffee and donuts. And that's the event. You would come and eat donuts and drink coffee on Saturdays. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound very fun to me. So as I came in, and I think that's part of why I got brought in, was I had kind of a more young mindset of like, hey, let's really spice this up a little bit, try to have some fun with an awesome brand. And so not pushing these discounts down your throat, but having giving away free stuff and having people at the store and doing different things like that, you're automatically going to drive people into the store or the dealership.
Talk a little bit about your videos. You know, you text out, you have the local radio guys in video for you, and you're featuring price points of bikes, but it was more about the culture. I mean, they were kind of more bought into what was going on, even though they're kind of pitchmen. Talk about how that went and how you executed that.
Yeah, so we had two local talented guys come in and they would do different sketches on every product that we had in inventory, whether we're doing something with service, it could be something as what would happen if you put your bike on a dyno and measuring
Not a
horsepower.
dinosaur, a dyno's like a machine that...
Where you measure horsepower and you figure out what you can do to it. But parts, I mean, just different information. Motor clothes, and so we would text the video out, link to YouTube, and you could simply make one click and you're watching video of these two guys. And we integrate that onto our social platforms, Facebook and everything like that, run ads on those, and we had huge response off of it. And I can measure just over a 4-month period of time where, let's say we promote 30 bikes, we'd sell 20 of them. And that was the biggest thing, is at the end of the day, I want to provide our ownership with ROI on what's mobile doing for us, and I can directly relate that with all of these different keywords and coupons that we bring in and bike specials. So.
We've touched on this a little bit already about the legacy, integrating the old methods, old marketing strategies to the new. So before you were there, you still see this in other dealerships right now. Do they do a lot of direct mail in the UK? Do you guys do the printed flyers? They send it to you in the mail. Harley Davidson still does quite a bit of that. And in the United States, they still do quite a bit of that, but very, very ineffective. So those are kind of things that you were faced with, I guess. How did you go about phasing those kinds of things out and replacing it with a digital strategy? What were some other things that you were like, well, coffee and donuts was another one, so.
Well, I mean, if we're talking old marketing versus digital, that's easy for me, because at the end of the day, I can go in and say, how are we measuring this? Whenever we did this $30,000 direct mail campaign last year, did we see anything off of it? And not one manager from any department could tell me anything. But I could go on and say, well, we sold 200 units last year because of our website, and because of all the retargeting banners that I've done, or driving them to our mobile site with through our text messaging.
Yeah.
So
that goes into the operations. The next point here, the operations side of it, like you're talking about, you can effectively manage and measure responses through mobile and through the marketing efforts that you have. Talk a little bit about, like your parts manager or your service manager, like getting a text message when your bike's ready, things like that.
Oh yeah, well, so mobile integrated that way it's great. I get text messages for when I have a haircut appointment. So I was like, why can't I do this with service and parts? And I don't see any other Harley Davidson dealers doing this at all, which is kind of crazy. So Harley as a whole, I mean, every store is franchised, so every store has different ownership. I mean, like I said, we're an ownership group now, so we're gonna be over several. There are other ownership groups around the country. There's one that has 20-something stores. But looking at all of these, and of course I researched them like crazy, none of them, they're all behind the times. I mean, they're behind the times of car dealerships. And so trying to take our dealership and bring it to the new age and make everything easier for our customer base who like things simple, I think is the biggest thing for me.
Well, and it's interesting, like in the previous panel, talking about taking risks, challenging and what to do next year, 5 years down the road. Working with a brand like Harley Davidson, there's like this really small learning curve. I mean, you really gotta hold their hand, and because of the demographic and things. Talk a little bit about really Harley's intent or purpose and what their expectations are of getting younger. I mean, that's one of the things I know you really are responsible for, working and getting younger owners. These older bikers are getting old. Somebody's got to come in behind them and buy bikes. So
that Harley corporate is making a huge push for that younger demo. They're making a huge push towards women riders. And they're basically doing it by releasing different types of models that aren't just the big baggers that appeal to that 35 to 54 demo. And so with that, your advertising has to go that way too. So it's challenging, and it's very, I know from talking to female customers or younger guys, they feel intimidated walking into a Harley Davidson dealership where you have the entire sales staff with sleeve tattoos, and they know that they've been riding bikes their entire lives. How do I go in there and approach this person about maybe being interested in buying a motorcycle? So I think the frontline staff is definitely the first place that you want to go, and that's something that we've really tried to do is integrate. We actually just added a female salesperson to hopefully make that process easier. And Harley Corporate's doing a really good job of their marketing nationwide, trying to appeal and reach those people in the areas where they think that they might be.
And a lot of that's digital. I mean, a lot of the ways that they're reaching that demographic is through things you've implemented already or that you're doing. You're not getting young customers to come out for coffee and donuts, and they're not listening to the radio in normal circumstances, or they don't read the newspaper anymore, which few still exist. And so you're reaching them through social media, through events that you do. Talk a little bit about like your UFC, your fight night stuff that you would do, and have girls out with tablets and get customers to sign up. And you talk a little bit. You actually were able to show a conversion, like you really got new customers in that had never been to the dealership from that.
Well, that was another good way that we implemented mobile, was specifically geared towards that younger demo, and using UFC fight nights, which we have a Hard Rock casino. I don't know if that's relevant over here or not, but
they do have Hard Rock cafes. We have a casino. We're in Oklahoma. We have a lot of casinos in Oklahoma.
Small bubble, so I'm throwing stuff out there. We have a Hard Rock in Tulsa, and having the UFC fight nights, they were big. 5,000 seat arena, sold out every time, and it's right there in that 18 to 34 demo that I was trying to reach. I partner with them. I have bikes in the lobby. I have my promo team out there with tablets where they're signing people up to be a part of the
kiosk, and you would
yeah.
your phone number.
It's all on Wi-Fi, and you're signing up, and if you sign up, you get free Harley memorabilia. And so that was one way that we were able to track those fight nights with people's phone numbers, and then go back and cross-reference that with our database on purchasing for that last year. Have we, done enough events with the younger demo to make them feel comfortable coming in?
And so many of these things really sound simple. I mean, I'm sure everyone's shaking their head going, yeah, okay, we did that, we do this, we text, but it works. And that's really, I mean, the testament to what Nick's done. He's implemented things to his customers that he didn't overwhelm them. It wasn't like, hey, we got an app, you got to have this if you want to do anything. He really has done a good job of again, holding their hand, leading them along, and doesn't always have to be the latest technology to engage the customers. And this is a proven point of that. Even the younger demographic that download 100 apps on their phone and they have social media, They text message, he's done a variety of things that have embraced them and brought them in the store. And the fact that they can measure that has been huge, because a lot of the other dealers that I work with, a lot of the dealers around the country, they don't get it. I mean, they think sometimes, in a sense, like you mentioned earlier, if you keep thinking ahead, like you're going to do this later, you never do anything, right? So, and that's what a lot of them I think are doing. They think, well, if I'm not going to have an app, then I'm just not going to do anything. So I think what you've done in integrating the small pieces has allowed you to grow. We talk a little bit about kind of next steps. Like, what are some of the things that you feel like you could now offer to your customers because you taught them to be a little more tech savvy?
Well, I was going to go back a step and say what you're talking about, the small things. Even though we're talking about simple text messaging itself is not simple. In the past, I was working with an agency that handled 15 dealerships. And a lot of those dealerships would send out messages, and they were terrible. So the message has to be relevant, and you have to put some thought behind it. What are you sending? And switching it up, we're talking about, okay, I'm sending links to videos where I've just spent money to have professional talent come in and talk about this product. So there's more than just, I'm going to send a text message out this Monday about this bike. Coupons. All right, well, let's give them a different way. We're going to have this promotion. They can come in and redeem it. They're actually doing something on their phone. It's different than saying, hey, we got 20% off leather jackets for 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks. So I think...
So like the apparel part of it, you see a lot of your younger demographic will come in and buy apparel because it's cool. They're not going to buy a bike necessarily. You've done so much in that area. Talk about your online store, like the next steps of what you're...
So I, in November, launched an online store. The thing with Harley-Davidson is I can't offer every product in my store, leather jackets, every part. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of products if I want to be a part of HarleyDavidson.com, where they allow me to be a dealership that people can pick their product up at, and then I get a portion of that sell. So in order for me to do that, I'd have to cut ties with them. What I can do is offer Route 66 Harley-Davidson clothing and memorabilia to anybody and still be a part of HarleyDavidson.com. So that's what I did. I thought with our name being so iconic, and it's funny because we get it from Chicago to LA, people riding Route 66 from Europe all the time.
Yeah, do you guys know what Route 66 is? And we talked about this a second ago. That's, there's a song.
Daniel Hicks.
So we get these groups that ride through, and they spend an entire day at our dealerships. I thought, well, why not market to them the t-shirts and whatnot that they're always trying to buy whenever they come in? And it's been really successful for the first 2 months. Our highest price point product on there is $54.99 for a hoodie. And as you know, our leather jackets can be $600, $700. So my cost is really low on it. And over the last 2 months, just starting off the ground, we're at $3,000 in sales. And we've spent $200. So we're making money.
Marketing that you already had in place, and things that you were doing.
And it doubled off the first month. And our main sales are overseas. Italy, Spain, and Canada have been my top 3 sellers. And I've done it all through Facebook.
Yeah, essentially, so you've done your Facebook advertising, some of your Google advertising, knowing that the majority of people that respond to those ads are on their phone. So your store's mobile friendly. Talk a little bit about that, and then talk a little bit too about geo-targeting. Some of these things are starting to come up. You couldn't explain that to a customer. They're never going to understand really geo-targeting. You mean, okay, they're not going to get it. But that's something that you kind of started to dabble in a little bit with in terms of location for those customers.
So going back to the first part, we made the site responsive. I see 70% of our traffic on our site is mobile. So obviously making it mobile friendly is the #1 thing that you can do with the website. And that's what we did with our online store. Big success. I just redid our other website where that is responsive. And it looks just like it does on a desktop, like it would on your phone. So that's been great as far as capturing leads, and we've seen huge improvements. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Well, the geolocation.
Oh, yeah, the
Specific of
geolocation.
knowing,
So,
not,
yeah.
not the people overseas as much, but,
Yeah.
you know, a bit about your location.
We have a competitor 5 miles away. We're the 2 closest competitors in the entire nation. And why, I don't know.
And Harley is very, very particular about protected territories of sale. Like they've got it down to streets that you can't cross over and market, you know, across the street from these guys, you know. So talk about how you.
There's a line drawn down the middle of our city, and they get the downtown event areas, so fairgrounds and places where, and the arena that we had, that I was doing ticket stuff with, we get into territory wars. But anyways, so we, like you said, they're very controlling over those territories.
But your geolocation, so
So we were able
do
to
some
target
things.
the area where the other dealership is with the geolocation and the retargeting banners and when our customer base is at that store, which they will be. Everybody who wants a Harley, so there's 6% of the population who even care about Harley Davidson. So you got to take all those people. They're in Tulsa, and they're going to know. All right, there's Route 66, and then there's Myers-Berry. We have an advantage because we have a 50,000 square foot showroom. Theirs is 10,000, but they've been there 100 years when we've been there 15. But we've smoked them the last 5. So.
Yeah, that's right. Your sales have been incredible.
But what's great is that in that market of the Metro Tulsa area, 600,000 people, we're top 10. They're top 25. So in the country,
It's pretty amazing the population size of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and imagine the number of bikes they sell. You would think that it would saturate at some point, but they keep selling more every year. So the thing that I think a great takeaway is to talk a little briefly, the data part of it, the information that you have. You mentioned it early about the existing customers that you had. I mean, we're talking 20, 30,000 customers in your database, right? I mean, that was one of the things where you immediately, they have an opportunity to tap into that audience that was already there and then start teaching and going forward. And then the same thing was applied to all your digital strategy with the geolocation, things like that. Your understanding of your audience has evolved and you're using the technology to really cater to them better.